not, yeah, because it just started. I was not in my live, even though YouTube so unceremoniously ended it. Took a second to restart it, but I know my ways around YouTube now. So whether or not you find your way back, at the very least, you'll be able to watch this second part of this live because we only did a half hour so far. And as you see, Ethereum was just coming below 3,500. Bitcoin's on the cusp of losing 113,000 now. But I need to open up my live on my tablet. I mean, on my touchscreen. See if anybody joins in, and we'll see if anybody's even told. But yeah, I'm back. If you guys, I'm assuming you can see me now. I'm not back. I restarted the live because they booted me. I must hit a sensitive spot for some people. But hey, the truth has to be told no matter what. But I can't replace the 135 people that were in there when I got the boot. But I'm also not going to shut it down for stupid reasons. But like I said, Ethereum and a lot of things are on the cusp of a bigger drop. I was being very honest with everybody. Whether YouTube likes my honesty or not, I'm going to keep telling you. But I'm going to go easy. No more talk about inappropriate things about. But look, did I not say we're on the verge of a big drop? I'm not talking out my... I'm talking the real truth here, folks. Whether you listen to me or not, I'll gain credibility every time this happens. Every time this happens, I gain more and more credibility because we're out in front of it and we don't get affected by it. Everything that is not phased by the bearish momentum will most likely be phased by said bearish momentum at some point. It's just a matter of time. But it pains me to where I can't even tell the truth to everybody, and then all of a sudden my live ends. So it's just, I don't know. But right now, XRP, if we're just being honest, needs to hold $2.89. That is the micro support here that needs to hold. Otherwise, we could open the door to a bigger drop. When I started my last live, it was at 304, and I said XRP could be experiencing a better than 20% drop if this next part breaks down. The last live, I talked about it as a whole. Ethereum's dropped. Bitcoin's dropped. Ethereum's down $100 and something since that. XRP's down 11 cents already. The market's shaking down in a big way right now. Now all of a sudden IOTA is down 6.4%. Algo's down 5.1%. The total 3's down 3.4%. You know, so this is where we're at right now. And I know not everybody's going to find their way back, but I appreciate the ones of you who have. I really do. I encourage you to join Tom's Army. Force them to advertise for me. Force them to share my content. Hit that like button and share this on social media. I encourage you, if you're sick of me being shadow banned like you just seen in the last live, that's what happens to me time and time and time and time again. I need your help in that regard. I really do. XRP healthcare, where it's at, it's holding a little bit. If this breaks down the next layer, it's going to end up cutting in half, just so you know. If it can hold this, well, yeah, then we end up breaking back up towards 7 cents. But if this fails, we cut in half. We'll be looking at that 2.6 range, 2.7 range pretty firm. As far as like Ethereum, we're below the Mendoza line. That's why these drops are becoming more swift. That big topping reversal like we were talking about in the last live before it shut us off, at the very least, you would think it would at least come down and backtest this move at 33. But there's nothing down here that was ever tested, like down at 3,100. But this just gets worse and worse and worse on a thinly traded weekend. They've got no limit here, guys. There's no limit right now of how we could see a 25. We don't know. So I said yesterday, be liquid instead of buying here. And I kept articulating. Somebody got mad at me in the Telegram because of it. I thought we were buying positions and blah, 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 and adding to them. And hey, there's all of that. That's all fine and dandy. But when I see a good enough signal to where I'm confident enough to say it, how are we bitching and moaning about it? Get out of the way. Or get hit by the bull, and then you still have, don't bitch and moan about it. If you have a better idea, take advantage of it. You're not supposed to trade off of somebody else's emotion, and then don't come back later and blame me for what you couldn't execute. I hate that stuff. I put in my heart and soul into this just to get kicked in the dick by the ones I trust the most is not fun. But that's all I'm going to say about that. YouTube got me a little wound up. But now, if we're entering the new accumulation phase, that means Bitcoin would come down to 110. It's already below this. The technical drop was down here towards 110, like I said earlier. And I think if that happens, we could be rounding this head. And if that happens, it's a problem. And then if we end up losing your last ditch support area is 106.6, that is the spot of contention. Now, would you rather me say continue accumulating and get fucking buried? Or would you rather me say, hey, this is the moment where you can make a decision here, and if you want to get out of the way, get out of the fucking way. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only, so I can't grab your hand and say, hey, press the sell button, but what I can do is tell you my fears that are in front of me. And now, who knows? Maybe this is the dip where you buy. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But all we can do is try to stay ahead of these drops. And this is on the cusp of being something a lot bigger. A lot bigger. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. But it's starting to. It's starting to. Look at Ethereum just from yesterday. That's a 10% drop on just Ethereum from yesterday. And we're just getting started if this is going to pull down here. Because you're not making the shoulder till you come all the way to 3,000. At least this part of the pattern, or 3,100. Like, this would be a big extreme pull down. But we don't know yet. That's why I keep saying it's a little more comfortable sitting and watching and being able to make a plan with your portfolio intact. Instead of just buying yesterday when it looked like we were about to drop off a cliff. And it feels bad when it's like that. It doesn't feel good. That's why, like 2 weeks ago, I came on and I was so emotional. No Fed emergency rate cut. I think this is by design. The Dow, I mean, we could see everything we needed to see, and the Dow got slaughtered today. Down 542 points. The NASDAQ was down 481 points, better than 2%. The S&P was down 109 points. The Russell was down 47 points, or 2.1%. They imploded. Yesterday we talked about the dollar. There was no point even pay attention to it over 100. It was going to implode. I said it's going to die. Eventually, here it will. That's a huge drop. Nice bear flag. Going to drop us down probably to the 97 or 6 tile. This only gets worse. Gold being up 72 bucks is a story within itself. Silver finished the week above 37. Good end of the week for gold and silver. Mining stocks kind of stood pat. We don't know what's going to happen next week, but it could be. The last time gold did this on a Friday after having a week down and then surged on Friday, what ended up happening was over the weekend we got escalation and world tension. If I didn't know any better, they might be setting up an advancement of war right now, or something weird's going to come out this weekend with the way the markets are lining up. And there's just, all it takes is one bad word right now, and this market drops another 15%. That's what I'm saying. We're on the cusp of something much bigger that happens quickly. This is one of those events where, yeah, a day and a half, 2 days ago, we said 15% will be gone in a matter of days. Well, now it's beyond 15% of the portfolio. Now what's next? What's next? Just from yesterday, Ethereum's down almost 11. You know, there's one thing to have foresight, and there's one thing to stay silent. I'd rather be people mad at me and say, oh, this guy's a dick, than not say anything. Sometimes it gets a lot harder because of the Telegram to say stuff because I know you more personally. When I say it on YouTube, I don't give a rat's ass how you react. I gave you the information. You know, and I like that because then I put it in your court. But when it's in the Telegram, it's more personal because I know more people. And then I can see their frustration come out when they don't make the right decision. You know, and that's the problem too. That's why I don't necessarily like the Telegram as much as I love it. You know, because I don't like to see that side of people. Because then once they burn the bridge once, then obviously, you know, it's like, are we really friends or are you just using me for the information? Because you get one bad moment and you kick me in the dick. I don't like that. And no, XDC would not survive a drop. XDC would have a fantastic drop here. If this falls out, XDC's probably coming all the way back down. But we don't know yet. It's still in a fantastic daily setup. It hasn't given it back yet. The most likely scenario, if this did give it back, you would start coming down here to the 20-day just to see where we align. But you can't, we don't know yet. It hasn't given anything back. Yeah, we're starting to show early signs of breaking down. But we technically haven't broke the structure. This would just be a foresight moment. If you came back up here and realized it was in that resistance trap, and then you ended up doing what you did. But, you know, this whole thing just gets uglier and uglier and uglier and uglier and uglier. Uglier and uglier. No, 000 gap, I'm sorry. No. The deadline for the ISO is not in November or December. Stop, everybody. Maybe 25 or 50% have to be online. But there's still so many exceptions until December of 28. Just stop. That has no affliction on the market. What happened today when everybody said they were turning the switch and we were going to pump like hell? I said it was going to be the opposite when things like this happen. There's no flipping switch. The only flipping switch is more people ending up in the nut house because they're believing all this nonsense. You really think one day you're going to go to bed and you're going to wake up and all of a sudden everything's going to add 0, 0, 0s just because they flipped the stupid switch? It doesn't work that way. Never has, never will. Why do you think they're putting so many regulations in before the supposed flip of the switch? Notice how all these regulations going in 28? When's the final declaration for the switch? Or when's the final declaration for the ISO? 28. Because they're going to make it so damn hard for this to go through in the way that you think right now via free flowing funds and free flowing buy and sell. It's not going to be like that. We're all asking for them to stop that big pump. Every single person who's asking for regulations, you are the problem. Every single person who says crypto needs regulations, you are a big problem. Get out of the space. I came into this space because I didn't want government controlling my moves. Guess what's happening? Government's controlling my moves. I don't understand. So XRP gets raped by the government and we get sat through the coals for years and now you're asking for their help with the rest of the market. You can't make this shit up. It's like the guy who can't afford to eat because the government shipped all of the jobs out and his factory closed, but he thanks the government for giving those cheap food stamps. What are we really talking about here? They took your living away, but thank God you can afford some fucking raisins. I don't know, man. It doesn't seem right to me. That's what we're asking for in the market now. We're asking for this. We ask for this stuff. And then instead of learning the technicals, we say, oh, well, this is what caused it. No, the technicals caused it. The lack of volume, the lack of buying pressure, the rates, the lack of a rate cut had nothing to do with it. They were baking in something that was never going to happen. That's why we pumped to begin with, so they say. And we already know every time MicroStrategies comes out with a new buy, it always drops right after. For whatever reason, I don't know what the reason is, but every time MicroStrategy buys a couple $1 billion in Bitcoin, the price always comes down in the next day or two. It happens every time for some reason. Eventually, it does rebound. But this is, we became overextended. This is a good way to clear out some of the stuff. And right now, if you're just being logical, you'd be looking at the 4 hourly if it breaks down to like 3,300. You could look at the 2 hourly, but I don't think it's going to help us. And it already came way below. So I think we're just looking at areas of support. Right now, Bitcoin is on the verge here because it's come through of another $3,000 drop. If we're just calling it for what it is, if we can't retake 113,000, we'll call it 700. We've got another $3,000 drop to about 110. You know, 110.3, 110, somewhere in there. And then we'll try to figure out if that's ahead. But it's not pretty. This doesn't happen slowly. That's why yesterday I said this is your chance. I've emulated it all day today when it had to rally back up, and I said, listen, do not buy. I said it this morning on the live, do not buy. I'm not saying that because I don't want you to get wealthy. I mean, you can make a decision now. I mean, if you want to buy at 289 on XRP, if you want to buy when Ethereum looks like this and Bitcoin looks like it's about to plunge through the seventh circle of hell, when Algo looks like it's targeting 19, when IOTA looks like it could target like 13, 14, it's going to break right past the 1695, which is the first area I told everybody to look at. I don't even think that's even going to be appropriate. It's probably coming all the way down to 15 at minimum. Because if it's resetting, it's coming all the way back down. And now, I mean, it's pretty clear we've invalidated these daily time frames. This is an invalidation so far. And I think it's invalidated. Now, yeah, we can't say that confluently until we break this low support. But for all intents and purposes, that daily golden cross is almost out the pasture. It's not completely, because if we hold this level, it's so amazing to say we're still fine. This is part of this, we're still fine, even though it could drop 35% and still be okay. This is where we're at right now. In theory, we could have these big drops and still be okay. That's the crazy part. You know? You know, it never makes you feel good heading into a thinly traded weekend like this. I can tell you that much. Jobs report was terrible as well. Like the Gatman says, Alec Tony says, too many bananas. You damn right there is. Big Dog, thanks for being in Tom's Running for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. Says, guys, be nice. Everybody has watched Moonboy YouTube. I started in January and all I saw was XRP 10K until I found Tom's YouTube. And you found at a good time because instead of going all in on XRP, you listened. And instead of us being even up at the 340, 360 after, now it's at 291 and it just, you know, now who knows? This is where it's fine. I don't mind what it does from here. If it goes up, I'm happy. Because now I can at least look at it from an honest standpoint and be like, what is happening here? Unfortunately, it's taking the down route. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. I look at this as a major opportunity when we get to where we're going. And I'll be very transparent once we get to where we're going, what I decide to do. But if we go low enough, I very well might pull the trigger on like 100,000 IOTA and just say the hell with a lot of other things. And pull a big bag of XDC. You know, and be like, hey, I got this extraordinary bag of XDC, this extraordinary bag of IOTA, you know, like 20,000 algo I would still have. I would roll around with H bar. XLM, I would probably find a way to own it when it gets cheaper again, where it's going to be. So, now we just got to focus on the area where it makes sense to you. Where does it make sense? Does it make sense where it's at right now? Maybe it makes sense for you to nibble in. For me, it doesn't make sense for me just yet because it just doesn't make sense yet. There's too much liquidity. There's not enough buying pressure. And I know these are times where they can drag the market. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to step off the cliff and drop this next 15% or not. There's no way of knowing. But if we do this next flip, I mean, XRP, it's funny because XRP was at 304 when I was first saying this before my live got cut off. And I was talking about the drop to 250. Well, now we're down 14 cents since I started my live, my last one at least, when I got cut off. But now we're about 46 minutes in totality. And in 46 minutes of live time, XRP's dropped 14 cents per token. You know, so that's a pretty big drop already. Bitcoin's dropped a couple thousand. Ethereum's down under 35 now, in the mid 34s. It's getting a little frisky here. Couldn't we at least agree on that? We're getting a bit frisky here. And like, this'll get pretty damn spicy here pretty quickly if this continues just a little bit farther. And I'll show you why. It does, the friction becomes a little more desperate here the farther down we go. Because it's not like we have this crazy amount of like, all right, this is so freaking awesome, right? But this is where we probably are coming, this is where we're coming down to. And I'll say it's probable because I can't say 100%. But 893 billion. And I think that's fair because that's the resistance point we broke out of after all that time. And now, does it make any sense not to back test? I don't think it does. I think we need to back test it. And that's going to be another definition of, can we hold alt season? If this breaks down, no. If you lose this, because that looks like a rising triangle right there, by definition. If we can back test this, let's take this off. And this is the total. What is this, the total 3 I'm on? Just to make sure, yeah. So this is your alt tokens outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you're looking at alt season, you're looking at the total 3. So now the price target says, let's just say we come down here and it takes until August 8th. 882 billion. Look how much that has to cut off still. And that all that is back testing this move out. Now, I can understand if you want to go farther. And you're like, yeah, you know what, Tom, bullshit. You got to go from up there. Well, I mean, you whatever you would like to do, my friends. But I'm just giving you the more likely scenario where it would come down to. And these top ends will end up being wicks in the shorter time frames. And technically, you double topped here, so we're trying to see where the pattern started. So resistance comes through, hits here for resistance, to support, to resistance, and then it just starts doing this. So you can look at it however you want, but either way, we're back within the pattern, whether you want to look at it from the top end or the bottom. You know, we fell through the first layer of danger. If you fall through 882, that's when it gets really interesting. Because then you have one layer of support, and if it breaks that, this whole pattern's busted. And that would be at 779 approximately. That's a big, that's 100 million. That's a big drop from where we're at and going. What's the biggest indicator that shows a reversal on the upside from the charts? The volume. Volume, and I like the EMA lines because it shows you the short technical traders and the shorter time frames when you start to reverse. Even though they're going to be a lagging indicator, you can see it within the exponential moving averages, especially if you use the 20, 50, 100, 200, and not just the 50, 100, 200 like most people do. The 20-day will give you that early indicator. That's when I was like, uh-oh. That 20-day is starting to not bounce around the way it should. And that's just the 20 days worth of people buying. That's your data of the 20 days worth of the last 20 days of buying power and selling pressure. And it creates a support on the 20 or a resistance. And when we didn't break out a couple weeks ago, and then especially the last couple days, it's like, this is not good. We had every reason to break out, and then we made that huge drop down and still couldn't get past the resistance. And then you got to kind of call it for what it is. So that's all I'm doing. Let me do the intro for this live as well. As we were 29 minutes into the other one and 21 here, so we're 50 minutes in, believe it or not. Good evening. 6:51, and nothing's dirt cheap right now, my friends. If we're gonna go down the next layer, I hate to break it to everybody. I know things look cheap, but if we go down to the next layer, you're gonna say, "Wow, this is really dirt cheap." When we go down the next layer. Because now we would break the back of everybody. Once you break the back of the daily golden cross or the potential lining of one, you break the back, and then it's easier to get that nice drop. We're sinking liquidity right now, but once it becomes more than just a liquidity grab and an all-out fear drop, which we're close to, that's when you get the real savings. This is like the middle step. Sure, it can hold it, but if we fall through this step, it's a problem. Good evening. 6:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday. August 1st, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. Nope, the other live is still there. I'm not deleting it unless YouTube did. Let me check. I don't know if they did or not because I'm live again. No, they didn't delete it. But it got, I don't want to go back to it, but it got deleted. It got taken off when I got to the one part of my content. You guys can go back and watch it and see what happened. But it doesn't make it any less true. Think about what I said at the end of there. But yeah, I mean, that's basically all I got. I think that's it. I've said everything I want to say. I've said my piece. We'll watch the market. Depending on what happens tonight and what time everybody goes to sleep, there's a very real chance I could do a midnight live, but it all depends on circumstances in my own house. Because I would like to see if we get any kind of bounce back after the flip of the clock, any kind of pull up here now that we in theory are coming down to a more defined double bottom from earlier. Although Ethereum just keeps going to the next layer, so that's something. It even broke down much farther than it did in that earlier drop. So we'll see. Now if it comes back up and back test 3,558 as resistance or 3,520, big problem. Big problem. So, but yeah, everybody, be blessed. I'll see you guys soon. I want to go make sure my son's good as well. He's getting his feeding. I encourage you to join Tom's Army so you can get into the Telegram. I wish I didn't have to do it this way, but there's so many scammers and scum of the earth people that try to take advantage of my good people in here, trying to take away their crypto they so hard, you know, it was hard to earn. And it takes a lot of dedication, and people are just willing to come in and try to scam people. So join Tom's Army. Join the other 446 members. I just put this into place probably when we were over 400 members, so not long ago. And if you want to cancel after month one, I don't blame you, but I encourage you. You can buy Epic, Dennis, on BITUNIX. So, you know, just, you know, we have the steps here at least, but you have to do that. And if you join Tom's Army to get into the Telegram, all you have to do is go on YouTube, go to my homepage, go to post, and then you'll see, here, let me delete these. And then just right here, you click on the Telegram, it brings you right there, and that's for members only in Tom's Army. It's a good stuff to keep people from trying to scam us. Can't get rid of everybody, but we do a really good job of this. Really good job of this. And then when you're in there, make sure you pay attention to the pager. That's my page. That's where I just started a couple days ago to just do it and talk the way I will. And it's much easier because there's no disruption, but we have a very tight community. I would love to see you part of it. Have a blessed